There are a lot of parts of running a company that do not require deterministic solutions. And what we're seeing from the interviews I've done on my podcast and some of the thought leadership that's going on at the moment is actually the Pareto Principle will apply a lot for some of the work we've been doing, which is 80% is good enough. In exchange for significantly reduced cost or significantly increased scale. So if I give you an example, let's say we're talking about marketing personalization. I want to send an email to every one of my customers and I want to use an LLM to generate content that is specific to them. I can take a risk that 1 in 10 of those is going to be a bit janky because in exchange, one, that's going to probably feel better for my clients, but in theory, that should lead to much higher conversion rates. And I suspect that we will see across society a softening of what good enough looks like in exchange for significant increases in scale or a decrease in cost. Because actually, you know what? Most of the things that I do at work, I don't need it to be 100% perfect. I need it to be good enough to move forward. And I think in a world that's changing so fast, I think that we'll start to make some real trade-offs in terms of accuracy versus speed.
I think they're both right and wrong. I think that's the interesting thing about this is, so I agree with what you just said, and that depends on the buyer and the application. You and I, all of us, have worked for clients in highly regulated industries. In those situations, we can't afford for 10% of something not to work, or even 1%. I think this is like how this plays out for SaaS is a very broad area. It's serving all the industries under the sun. So what their needs are not the same. And so I think this is going to be if you're a SaaS business, who's your customer? What are the things that matter to them? I think these are the questions, as I said, that what remains the same is always as interesting to me as what changes. So looking at those things in the round is really important as you evaluate your business through this change.
Yeah, I mean, I think the people on the factory floor at Boeing are probably not going to even be happy with 1% wrong, right?
Right.
So that means these large-scale incumbent systems relatively impervious to change, right? I mean, it's really hard to push them off regardless of what the alternative is. But where organizations see a competitive advantage accruing from being first mover, they're going to take more risk, right? So the risk absorption, the appetite for risk is greater. For example, in places like sales, people are pretty willing to take risks in sales because, hey, it's only a phone call, right? It's only an email.